Hello, Culture Matters podcast. This is something special for the books. Before I introduce you to our guests and their great ancestors, I'm going to share with you a quote just for this episode. He who looks through his eyes sees little. He who looks through his ears sees much. MDC, circa last night, 11:40 p.m. Today is a very, very, very unbelievably special show. It's taken years of struggle, pain, and an absence of enough psychotherapy for me to come to the point in my life where I'd be ready to do this. And here we are. I want to give a couple shout outs before I introduce the guests. If you're listening to this show and this is not the first time, then you know some of the faces. We have quite a few friends of the Culture Matters podcast. And I want to shout out very couple episodes to go listen to after this. Episode 685 with the real Brian Hess. Episode 408 with Christopher Vester. Episode 591 with Matt McHale. And episode 552 with Mike Drop Calhoun. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to try. Years ago, I met, I was 6 Red Bulls deep, about 30 minutes in a conversation with the real Brian Hess.
I
And
just
I
thought
remember
you
a
met
napkin.
everybody that way, by the way.
And yeah, I'm trying to think out loud how I met it. I'm 6 Red Bulls. This is what I'm gonna, and then I'm gonna introduce everybody. I'm 6 Red Bulls deep. He still loves me. The rest is history. I'm on Facebook running around sweating profusely. Chris Vester, Instagram DMs me at Alex Tabernay's, like while I was at Alex Tabernay's office, yelling at a bunch of guys that who knows even if they're in the mortgage industry still. Jeremy Adams, I speak with at an event, and he introduces me to the most interesting man in the world, Mike Calhoun. And Matt McHale, somehow, after all these years, almost 10 years, is still my friend after me speaking because of Jen Groover at Jumpstart Startup. Matt McHale, meet Christopher Vester, Brian Hess, and Mike Calhoun. Mike Calhoun, meet Brian Hess, Christopher Vester, and Matt McHale. Christopher Vester, meet Brian Hess, Mike Calhoun, and Matt McHale. Brian Hess, meet Christopher Vester, Mike Calhoun, and Matt McHale. You've all changed my life in so many ways. I could literally just go the next 53 minutes explaining that, but I'm going to shut up and ask and tell the audience this is the New Year's Eve Jubilee. My word for the year is intensity. I'd love to learn your guys' words and why. And I want to challenge the audience with our example that we're taking the next year very seriously by showing up and being together with one another. You're a part of my culture, and I'd rather be nowhere else, which is why I haven't showered yet today. Love you. Somebody say something.
You didn't have to share
Take the mic out of my. Take
we
the
wouldn't
mic.
have known that part if you didn't share it. So you could have kept that the non-sharing to yourself. So
I think we all felt sticky just for a split second there.
gentlemen, nice to meet you all. I actually met Brian in person at Len Lundy's event back in Kentucky when we're part of Breakfast with Champions. So good to see you again, Brian.
Very cool, man. Good to see you too, brother.
Yeah. And I'll apologize now when I take my drink, Brian.
Yeah. Well, as I said after the Eagles beat the Steelers, I was like, congratulations on the win, but now you still have to live there. So
that was good.
Oh, man.
Good.
Chris, I'd like to know what your word was for 2024.
My word?
Yeah.
For 2024 is pruning. It's, I don't think something that we do intentionally enough is to prune things out that are not moving us forward on our personal mission while we're here. So just taking the year and saying, hey, what am I doing in life? What's fruitful and what's not? There were several things that I had made some commitments to, and the minute the commitment was over, there was no renewal of that commitment based on the fact that it was not fruitful. for what I know is my mission here. And just to make margin, give me more margin of time, more margin of, to use talent, to use treasure, just looking for margin. So taking a hard look at, I guess, probably the most productive 20% of the things I do that produce 80% of the results. It's kind of how I looked at the printing process. So that I could, again, make margin to spend more time in that 20% to produce even more results, to create over and above margin. So that was for 2024. And looking back, I think I was pretty successful at doing that.
That's awesome.
That was really intentional. It was interesting because my Suzanne picks a word, my wife picks a word, and mine was printing, hers was gathering. I'm like, that's like, we can't do that at the same time. So
it's like one's operating the wood chipper and the other one's feeding it, right?
Yes. That's kind of how it felt sometimes, but she's got amazing discernment. So she helped with the printing process a lot. So it was lots of open dialogue. And how do you see this serving us? How do you see this not serving us? How do you see this serving the business? How do you see this serving our family? Like, it's like just a lot of open dialogue. And for her, gathering's not, she's a natural introvert. So gathering's not her thing. So she was trying to get out of her comfort zone. So printing for me was uncomfortable, so she chose to get uncomfortable by choosing this idea of gathering. So for us, it was both. We felt like we achieved what we were looking. So
what about you, Brian? What was yours?
My word for 2024 was multiplication. I was multiplying, everything, relationships, revenue, profit, and
Stella.
Yeah. Well, that was, she was born in 2020, end of 2023. So in that sense, I'm done multiplying. I have 5 kids, for those that don't know. So we're done multiplying in that sense. But yeah, no, it was about, multiplying relationships. I had always focused on, doubling things, like going from this to that, doubling. And I got to a point where I was like, what the hell's the difference between doubling and multiplying? There isn't much, right? It's just looking at things through a different lens. And, especially from a relationship standpoint, it's always kind of been my natural gift to be able to talk to somebody, talk to anybody and build a relationship. If for those that get to meet my family, you'll find that my 5-year-old has the exact same skill set. At 5 years old, he could talk to anybody in the world and, not be intimidated. And, dude, I would say this call is a sign of success when it comes to, multiplication of relationships, because, as much as I've tried over the years, this is getting Jay to a point of having a bunch of us on this call is super meaningful to me, because it shows growth of, our own relationships, right? It's not just about what happens in our own lives, but those that we impact, that we have great relationships with. And this guy's like a brother to me. And so, to be able to get to this point, to have a bunch of people on the screen with Jay is the sign of multiplication at the highest level to me. So.
Thanks.
Very well said.
Great observation.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
What about, what 24? Your word?
Oh, my word for 24.
I need a moment so I'm not crying.
Yeah. Oh, this is buying time. Got it.
Yeah,
I got you.
yeah.
Let me word for 24, brutal. Word for 25, value. 24 was the lesson of 24 was that I'm not sure if everybody digs into the Bible, but there are lessons that God teaches us where he's like, you're just not going to learn until I literally let you beat yourself into the ground. Like just like he's standing there just off to the side, watching you just like a gladiator fighting himself, beating the hell out of yourself. And you're feeling like I'm working so hard and I'm applying endless hours, endless strategy, endless dollars, endless effort, just like it's almost as if you're a jet fighter and you're using every single one of your assets and all your artillery and just, and then he's like, then you just hit the wall and you're like looking for reserve tanks and you're kind of out of all of it. And he's like, are you done? Like, are you done? So we can get started. And I think in reflection, it was probably the most brutal year, but it was maybe one of the best because you've got to have years like that. Like you can't win, and then not get your teeth knocked in. Because if you just keep winning, you're never really growing. It's like a stock that's going up and it's actually losing dominance, and it's as the higher it's going, it's actually getting weaker. And then at a certain point, it retraces, right? The retracement is healthy, the consolidation is healthy, the beating, as brutal as it is, was healthy. And I think sometimes those beatings are the things that make us valuable. And it wasn't a dream. It was more of like this feeling of waking up. Like the first thing when I woke up one morning, it wasn't a dream. I'm not like some, foo-foo deal, but it was like that moment where you cross over, where you're just like, dude, I need some help, man. And he's like, well, I was just waiting because you're not doing this without me. And, it's when you leave it all on the mat at the gym, like you pushed yourself to the point where you just feel like you're going to throw up, and maybe you did. You hired a personal trainer and he pushed you so hard, you freaking, yacked in the can, next to the water cooler. Sometimes you've got to be pushed to the point where you break, so you know what's possible.
By the way, Mike, to make you feel better, same.
Yeah. And it just makes you like, you get to the point where it ain't nothing. None of it's going to kill you. Right. And I mean, if it does, dude, game's over. But it's that pain that makes us, it's that experience creates something in us that makes us different and special and valuable. Like for you, Brian, going through something like that this year as well, you are more valuable to Matt because you're bringing experience, real intimate experience to Matt, where Matt doesn't have to go through that, right? And you're potentially Matt's new best friend. So that's why I think 2025 value is the word, because when you go through something, and I'm not talking like little stuff, man. When you go through not a thing, but like 24 things back to back to back to back, it helps you to define priority and value. Like what am I doing? What's valuable to my family? What's valuable to me? Well, you get clear on shit real quick, right? Well, it takes about a year, right? But yeah, it's amazing how stubborn guys like us can be. I mean, like just brutal punishment to ourselves until we wake up. Yeah, so I'm I'm thinking 2025 is going to be a very, I want, my vision for 2025 is to create more value for the people in my realm, and also show them exactly why they are valuable as well. Because I think a lot of people get so busy in their day to day, and they keep getting distracted with the delusion of adding things to their business, adding things to themselves, adding, even down to buying a car, grabbing another purse, need a new house. They just keep accumulating things that they think are valuable, but it's actually diluting their value to their family, their value to the business. Sometimes we think that, especially in America, the culture of acquisition of a thing, investing in people, not things, I think is really the theme for 2025.
Matt?
So my word for 24, I would look back and look at it as growth, and kind of going off a little bit, of what Mike was saying. So I think there's two, everyone goes through, the things and the culling, to put a word to it, or, these periods where we can have growth. I think the problem is, a lot of people don't take advantage of it, and I think, Mike, to what you were saying is recognizing that and really being able to, take advantage of those things to be able to grow out of it. One of my favorite quotes is most men live lives of quiet desperation. The quote is meant to say, don't die with your song in you, go out and do what you need to do. But a lot of people stop there and just live those lives of quiet desperation, because they're not willing to kind of get over that hump and go through, and just to what you're saying, buying things or doing all these things and putting in place of actually taking a good hard look at, where you are, what you're doing, and taking ownership, of your life, and taking ownership of your actions, and knowing you are exactly where you are because of what you did, period, and end of discussion. And those things are very hard for people. So it's easier to kind of put it off with buying things, blaming circumstances, blaming others, all those things that go through it. So I wish that, most people would understand the part of that, of growing through that. And that's what, having someone in your life, having a mentor, having people in your life that can help you understand those things are so crucial and so important. Because when you're going through it, you can't see everything, you can't understand everything, and making sure you have people that can help you through that, is a big part of those things. So, yeah, so I definitely appreciate what you're saying there, Mike, and I think we can all look back, and I was talking earlier, I lost, way too many people in my life this year, some to suicide, and some to just dying of cancer or natural causes. But it's one of those things that really makes you reflect on that, and makes you reflect on the importance of it, but also, that no one is guaranteed tomorrow, to do that. So, all those things kind of play into it, and play into how we need to really focus on those things, and really adjust when we're going through it, and just learn, to grow from those tough times, and learn to understand, why things are happening.
Agreed.
Oh, we got Chris back. His internet went down. It pruned him.
He was pruned, but you gathered him back.
There you go.
I like Chris's word margin too, because I think a lot of us
I got pruned right out of this.
pride ourselves in how much we can fill the plate. And the only other person I've ever heard actually use that word, it's funny because you have the ranch, and I was telling you about the billionaire Ed Coble,
Hmm.
that leads the Bible study on abiding. And one of his principles is to create enough margin in life where you're only giving 50% of your time to work and only needing 50% of your revenue, and you're taking the other half and you're investing it in things that, whether it's ministry or philanthropy or community development, but things that make the world better, or he's really big in community development, but that word margin is I think a tricky word for some people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
who was who was
yeah,
that?
Mike, do you mind repeating your whole story that Chris? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No,
Yeah, because that was some amazing stuff. But yeah, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I always miss the best stuff. Mike, who was the billionaire you were talking about? Because
Ed Koppel.
yeah, that word margin for me came from a coaching thing I did for 3 years, and it was biblically based coaching.
Yeah, Ed Koppel off of they owned the DeBartolo Group owned the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
They're here out of Tampa.
Gotcha.
So they have the ranch I think I was telling you about in southern Georgia with the armory on it, and
oh yeah.
All the kind of the retreat for the marriage retreat. They do it for guys, like, and then they also do it for couples.
Like we were talking about when we talked the other day.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
Yeah.
He only communicates by email, no text, and literally 3 words, 4 words. There's no extra anything. Or just a link. Like, here's how he gets you to register. If he's going to be somewhere, say he's going to be at an event, he just sends you the link. There's no context. There's nothing. Just the link, and you're invited. He's going to be there. There's no discussion about it. Just be there. That's it. CJ, that's what I would love to do. If I could just send one link one time, and he won't send it again. There's no subject line, nothing. If I could just send one link in an email and everything, that would be amazing. That's
real pruning there, man. That's pruning.
That's respect, though. Somebody works very hard to be able to have that type of influence. And
Yeah, I got a question for you on that. All the high, the prestigious people that you've collected in your life and come across, what are some of the values you'd say they model in their behaviors that leads to a degree of respect, trust? So, because I'm implicit in that, to me, is a reputation of value. It's like if my perception is of Ed of value, I am going to.
It's a 4-letter word.
Okay.
Okay. Are we
Remember,
allowed?
this is a.
Are
Well,
we allowed to use
we
on
are
this?
explicit according to the. I don't know how that happened, but
Yeah, well, I was
It's a
say
Brian knows how it happened.
I was say faith family fulfillment we're listed as explicit, and it's a Christian podcast. So I don't know how that happens either.
Well, I was on that podcast too, Chris. That's right.
It's simple. It's
denominator.
It's the word give.
Give.
So if you're able to give people your time, if you're able to give them attention, if you're a faucet in the middle of the desert, it just, things will grow up around you. It's either one, you're either giving or taking, right? Like, you're doing one or the other. So like, everybody wants to be an investor. Well, like, that's what I feel like guys like Ed do. They are qualifiers because they're not casting pearls before swine. They are qualifying where they invest their giving, their contribution, their recognition. And I think they're always recruiting as well, but they recruit it through that outreach, right? Like, I met Ed through a Bible study that I was invited to, and we probably bonded because I paid attention. You know, when somebody's giving and you're receiving, if that seed is going into fertile soil, if somebody sees you as fertile soil, your contribution back to them is you're able to grow that seed that they're planting. You know, bad soil, you're not going to have any growth. It's that reaction that you talk about, Jay, where you have two chemicals and together it changes, right? Yeah, I think everything changes with that spirit and mindset of contribution.
Just massive generosity.
Well, it says above all else, charity.
Just to throw something out there, years ago when I started the Pavement Group almost 7 years ago, one of the things that I committed to instantly was to tithe our profits, so to give 10% back, in whatever form or fashion, that became applicable to. And over the years, you don't think when you start the business, because there's just not that much profit, how difficult that gets, to find the places that you want to give to. And it's been a game changer in my life to, like, now I don't set revenue goals or profit goals as much as I set the giving goal first, and then back into what it takes to be able to fulfill that. And that has been a game changer, man. And we stay committed to the giving goal regardless of the circumstances of the other results. So, like, sometimes that's above and beyond 10%. But it has created this passion in our team that it's bigger than ourselves, right? That there's something outside the walls of this building that need our help. And if you were to ask anybody on our team, like, what's the most meaningful thing, it's the work that we do outside the building. And this year for our company Christmas party, we invited all the nonprofits that we supported, and so the people got to meet the human beings that are responsible for impacting other human beings. And man, it was magical to be able to just watch that happen, like watch the people, like, say, what is the work that you do, and to get to hear the stories of that. And a few years ago, I got to spend just a little bit of time with John Maxwell in person and ask him specifically, Mike, about giving. Like, what is it that he's given. I mean, he's led 1 million people to Jesus over the last handful of years. I mean, it's incredible what his ministry has done. And he gave me tips on giving that I will never forget, man. He said, when it comes to giving, there's 5 questions you should ask when you're being asked to give. Does the leader have confidence in character? Can I give more than dollars? So that's a commitment we have to give, our time plus dollars. Is this organization making a difference for others and for me? So is it something that we really believe in? And then how can I increase my giving? What do I give? What could I give? And then the third question, which blew me away, what could I give if I partnered with God to help me give more? Just like expand your mind, like, what is it? And then the last question is, what is God's blessing, and has he prompted me to give? And so that changed the way that we approach so much stuff in business, because it flipped it from, like, well, how do we get in order to give? And we just flipped the equation to, like, well, how do we give first and then figure out how to make it happen? And it's changed the mentality completely to, like,
well, it into the lines with faith.
Right.
Yeah,
you can't outgive God, right? And so that's and he uses this quote a lot. If you listen to him, he says, do your giving while you're living, so you're knowing where it's going.
That's good. Yeah. That's actually really good. I like the you made me think. So one of our charities is founded by this guy, Mike AOL down in the Dominican Republic, Mike Clark took an exit from his company and then decided not to go back into entrepreneurship, started a orphanage down in the Dominican. And he always, reminds the individuals in our group, like you said, you don't have to give dollars. It's time, talent,
Sure.
and treasure. So, and if you want more time, maybe you should be giving your time. If you want more talent, if you want more treasure, like, are you giving potentially like the thing that you are trying to build your faith around? And the real goal is, when can you give all three? Right? Because I think a lot of us have a lot to offer, and our time is probably, as soon as we start investing our time, we're more invested than even our dollar, because the check, like, we don't even feel or touch or see money anymore. It's meaningless to us in a sense. You write a check or you swipe a card, or it's like, it's almost so disconnected or from our reality. We just look at it, some digits on a screen, but you go give your time, it'll make you give your dollar, right? Interesting order of priority.
You become incredibly invested. It's, so what we do, we have two different types of giving that we do, or charities that we support. So we support veterans, anything veteran related, anything with kids, and then anything that our team supports. So something important to their family, somebody in their family has, heart disease, or, whatever it may be. We support those things. And so, to your point, man, when we go wrap presents for kids and we spend time doing it, it's a totally different connection.
Yeah.
You can buy all the wrapping paper, you can buy all the gifts, and that's easy, man. You get them delivered by Amazon, sit in your computer and ship it away, and it's just just an adjustment on the balance sheet.
Yep.
But when you go there, yeah, it's a totally different experience, man. Change your whole life.
Do you guys know Chris? Is this your first time meeting Chris?
I've met Brian. It's my first time meeting Matt. Yeah. That, so you talk about giving, one of the things, part of that's like, I've heard everybody on here talk about faith, I think, and understanding that, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be standing in a pulpit to have a ministry, and understanding that your business is a ministry. And through that, you're going to figure out a way that you can serve in that ministry using time, talent, treasures. And ministries can either be founded, like we could be the founder of that, or we can find one to pour into. Like that's what we talked a lot. Like you find one that aligns with you and you're pouring into time, talent, treasure, or you can fund it like with just pure funds. One of the things that I've challenged myself in and other people that I've had conversations with is, first understanding what your individual unique mission is that God gave you, how you're uniquely built with talent, and how are you uniquely built with unique characteristics that are only yours. And then position and productivity. And if you can figure out a way that you fit into something with the right position of productivity, either originator, organizer, or operator, and using top 5 natural talents and some of your unique characteristics. And then the last thing you check is it about Jesus? It's easier to say yes. And because I think a lot of times, if we are people of faith, if people drop the Jesus bomb in it, like we want to get involved without even recognizing whether we should be or not, because somebody else could be better, uniquely qualified and called to do that. So that was part of my pruning process last year, was like my church asked me to do something, but in order for me to pour into that like I needed to, which was lead our men's ministry, there had to be other things that came out because of the 8+ hours of a month that it took to prepare for that and go serve at that, and then lead beyond that if people called on me individually. But to your point, like it was about, you said about giving, about being a faucet. One of my favorite compliments is when someone says to me that I'm always available. Because I do have people in my life that when the phone rings or a text comes through, like I'll excuse myself to go handle it because I know they understand my busyness, they understand my position, and they're only going to reach out if it's a desperate need in some cases, or
Mhm.
something they're excited to share that they want to be a part of.
Mhm.
So I think like opening yourself up as a faucet in a desert, I love that analogy, you know. But yeah, serving with our feet and our hands is one of the things that we've really tried to pour into this past 2 years. Is anybody can give $1, but when you go and do it with your feet and hands, it's way different, way different.
Mhm.
Chris, what's your word for 25?
And my word,
2025.
yeah, my 2025 word is clarity. There's a lot of things going on in our business and our family, and with my marriage and things that Suzanne and I want to do that. We've gotten some really good leadership and advice from one of the guys on the call that y'all should lean into that a little more and trying to find the clarity of what that looks like. Just like being able to create the margin to have space and availability. And then, okay, well, how do I do that and not fall back into a state of what I think is what the enemy does best is makes us really busy.
Mhm.
You know, so being really clear of not just being busy, but being fruitful in what I'm putting my feet to, my talent, my treasures too.
And Matt, what was yours?
Consistency.
Tell us why.
I was wondering if he was trying to delve in more. If that was the look he was trying to get me at. So I think because of my year of growth and going through the things I did, and part of it is I work a lot with nonprofits. So when we bring up nonprofits, and also over my left shoulder, that whole top, that's all John Maxwell videos that go back 20 some years. So I have friends of mine were really close to John Maxwell. So I spent a lot of time with John Maxwell a few decades ago. Did a lot of stuff with his organization, and even that bottom shelf that's all his books there. So I'm a big Maxwell fan. But also for nonprofits, I'll speak up with them. I agree with all you guys are saying, but money is the most important. So give to nonprofits. I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking to people out there that are watching. But it is, all those spending time and doing. We have for my wife and I, our nonprofit, we have people that became volunteers that are dear friends to this day and always will be. So that is a great way to connect with people and certainly help, and nonprofits definitely need that help as well. But for my consistency, I'd exited one company. I've been building a few other companies, and through this year of growth and kind of going through and trying to really understand what I want to make happen and some of the things that we've been working on. It's been very challenging, which is great because we go through a lot of frustration and failure to try to get to the right place. And I feel, especially in the last few months, we really have gotten there. So I'm really looking forward to the new growth through 2025 by being consistent in the things that I need to do.
Brian?
Honesty.
I saw that on your post the other day.
2025. And I think as we go through, periods of growth, and for us, it's been, a rocket ship for the last, 6.5 going on 7 years now. And through that, you collect a lot of employees and a lot of people around you and a lot of activity and a lot of things that are happening. And it's hard to keep up with, the cadence and the of conversations and consistent communication. And sometimes what lacks in that stuff when you get overwhelmed is real honesty. Maybe today's not the time for me to deliver this message, or it's not the right moment. And, that procrastination leads to a lot of things. And, for me, there were moments this year where I felt resentment for people, as I felt like I was being taken advantage of in different scenarios. And, I learned that it was my own lack of honesty that put me in that position. And so, I'm not I'm not going to hold back the honesty. You know, I'm really good at delivering bad news. You know, I give people a lot of grace even when they don't deserve it. And so, you know, with that said, like, I think that, you know, honesty will cure a lot of those feelings that I've had. And so, and I think it'll accelerate our business like nothing else ever has. And so, you know, for me, it's that consistency in, you know, telling people what I feel, what I think, you know, is gonna help me personally, and in turn help the whole organization, everybody around me, and frankly, in some cases, for those that are following along online, I think it'll help the whole internet when I actually tell people the truth about what I know that people make claims of that have absolutely no truth to them whatsoever. And so, you know, I think we need more honesty in the world. And if I think that's what we need, then the best thing I can do is be an example of that.
Brian, what do you think as far as the honesty? What's more important, being honest to others or being honest to yourself?
Well, I think it all starts with being honest with yourself, right? If you can't be honest with yourself, there's no possible way you could be honest to other people, right? And you know, I'm pretty good at not lying to myself. You know, I definitely break promises to myself, but I don't lie to myself, right? I live 2 feet planted firmly in reality. But you know, without being honest with yourself, I don't think there's a chance. And I think that's where most of it starts, right? That people aren't honest with themselves. And so, you know, if you lie to yourself every day, it's pretty easy to go out and do the same to others. Most of the time, I think also for me, it's doing the wrong things for the right reasons, right? Like, you know, holding back conversations or delaying them, try to, you know, save somebody's feelings, or maybe it's a bad timing for me personally to just, and I've learned, like, hey, it's not my responsibility how people receive things, as long as I'm delivering it the best way that I know how. You know, I can't be responsible for, you know, everyone else's emotions, feelings, etc.
Hit it head on healthy.
Yep.
That's one thing I've definitely learned. First off, we don't have to respond immediately. There's nothing that makes us have to respond immediately. And if you feel that need to have that knee-jerk reaction, do it tomorrow. And it's always better. And like you said, don't procrastinate. Receive it as a challenge to grow in your ability to communicate, because the better we become at those very difficult communications, the faster we will be able to move in a productive manner through life. Because almost every major challenge that, like last year, was so brutal, but really it's a communication issue, right? Mastering communications, and I think sometimes the better I get at communicating at certain things in business, the worse I get sometimes in the personal life. Like, they're not the same, you know what I mean? They're almost opposite. So it's like you're over here getting good at one, and you're trying to apply those principles over there, and you're like, that doesn't work, right? Right, Jay? And you're over here getting like,
This is fun.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. Life is nuanced, isn't it?
Very much.
Life is very nuanced.
One of my favorite lines when I'm talking with someone and having to be honest with them, and we're not seeing things on the same, and I will say to them, I believe that you believe that. And then continue the conversation from there, because, you know, people convince themselves of a lot of things that may not be true. And I think that's where, you know, helping people to be honest with themselves, but also understanding that they're coming from an area that they believe what they're saying, you know, whether they're, you know, trying to fool themselves into something, or however that happened, but understanding that and helping them to understand that I believe that, but, and then going into it, sometimes can help. Not, you know, sometimes it doesn't, but it all depends on the person.
I'm
Brian,
trying to practice questions. Like it's really, if you can just ask questions and they arrive at the point of where you're trying, like the problem or conversation, that communication element that you're trying to achieve without having to press upon them your perspective, like it's a very healthy arrival.
Yes. Helping them understand that without having to be told. Yes.
Yeah,
I
what
was-
relationship do you? Oh, Chris, wait. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a follow up for Brian. I just know I like 100% about the honesty with yourself. And I like what you're saying about it. When it's getting honest with other people, the best way is to get them to come to their own conclusion about it. Right. But with yourself, what have you seen to be the most effective way for you to do that with yourself? Like, what's the way that you've developed to be able to be honest with the one in the mirror? Because that's, as you said, it starts with being honest with ourselves. Like, how have you effectively done that?
I find like the things that really get me off track the most are, it's what I don't do that I need to do. So it's a lot of like scheduling and like where am I spending my time and, that kind of stuff. So I created, kind of a review process for myself where I look at my schedule at the end of every day, very diligent about like deleting the things that didn't actually happen or getting them rescheduled so that when I look back digitally, like it's one of the exercises that I did this week. I did 2 exercises this week that were pretty crazy for me. I'd recommend all of you try to do it in the next week if you can. I went back through my camera roll from January 1st of 2024 until the end of the year. And I probably got to like April and I was like, dude, what a year. Right. So like, we could all sit here and talk about all the problems and challenges, but when you look back at your camera roll and you see, because that is really those are the fun moments. You're not taking pictures of the miserable moments, right? Like, and so, you look back at that and then I got this one actually from John Maxwell, but I went through my whole calendar and I figured out who did I spend time with and how much time did I spend? And then categorize that in 2 different ways. Was I investing time or was I spending time? Did I feel like I was sowing seeds? Or did I feel like, I was spending time? And it was very revealing. And so that process, Chris, is really, that's the start of the honesty is like, well, what did I actually do? What did I actually do? Because it doesn't matter what my intentions were, what my, schedule said. It matters what I actually did. And, did I keep those promises to myself that I was going to do? And, what I've come to learn about myself over the last few years is that I got a pretty good batting average of keeping the promises. I could sit here and beat myself up over all the things that I don't do, right? Like all the things that I intend to do that don't happen. But when I take it day by day with the number of activities that I have, the number of meetings that I have, the number of relationships I pour into, the number of things that I say I'm going to do that I do, I've got a very high batting average, right? And so, that is really my biggest gauge. And then now that addition of looking back and saying like, okay, and it's really the pruning process that you talked about. It's like, where did I spend this time and was it effective? And you learn like, man, you get pretty good at automatically pruning. Like who I spent time with in the first quarter was not the same as the people I spent time with in the fourth quarter. Some of those people got pruned out, right? And so, that whole process is really, for me, it's a rhythm to my life that allows me, with multiple businesses and 5 kids and all the activities and, all the travel and all that stuff. It's like, how do I stay honest? And then the camera roll, man, made me feel really good. Because I think the most insecure position that we all have is probably being parents, right? Those that are. And, for me, I think it's the easiest to like look and say like, man, am I spending enough time? And through those photos in that camera roll, man, I was like, dude, I hit a lot of places and I had a lot of moments with my kids and there's a lot of smiles and a lot of really cool memories that were created in a year. And the only thing it made me do was like, how do I get more of that? Like, how do I prune some things where I was spending time in order to get more of those moments, right? The one-on-one trips of my kids that I take and taking them to sporting events and getting them exposed to the things that I love that hopefully, at least a few of them. I got 5, so I got a pretty good shot of a couple of them loving what I love, right? But doing all that stuff, that foundation of like Mike said it earlier, but like, man, when you spend your time, you're going to figure out if it was worth it or not, and, for me, doing those 2 activities really gave me clarity on the year,
I think that would be an amazing app that plugs into your Google Calendar where it gives you reporting on time invested versus time spent versus how you rated the quality of like think about it. Every appointment, if AI popped up and you just responded to like in the moment, bang. So you don't have to deal with anything. It's just like that frequency and consistency helping you month after month shape and guide and invest your time better. Like that would be a really cool app.
Yeah. And then the month in review or the quarter in review with literally photos, man. Like that process made me want to document more things in the moment. Cause like, it really filled my cup, man, to be able to go look back and, I posted a couple. I had like an app that took all the photos and put them into like a year in review type thing. And there was so many of them. I think there's like 400 photos from the year in my like year in review, like the stuff that stood out. And that was cool, man. Cause I'm like, years ago, there's not a chance, like, it wouldn't have looked like that. Right.
Yeah. Do you know Andy Langsom?
I don't.
Jay, I think they would be my guard dog too. Andy Langsom and him would be a good conversation.
Something I wrote down here for when I don't stay aligned with myself, the devil creeps in. So I'm not with others. I'm not with others. Oh, is that your little dog? But me and the devil. The devil separates me from other people. Like I looked up the definition of integrity. Like integrity is about wholeness. It's like thoughts, words, actions. It's alignment. I think the devil wants to separate us from other people. And I think I have been very weak in my life. I have not, my whole life is me trying to put myself together. It's why culture matters. That's my call to action. It's my call. So that's what I think that was a very helpful breakdown. It's like the devil wants to separate me from the people I love.
That's
The
why you have
devil,
us, Jay.
the devil, well, but this is the thing. I have you guys because I'm not going to keep you if I'm not integral. Because the devil, right, can creep in when my thoughts, words, and actions are not aligned perfectly. The devil is going to be in every conversation. The devil is going to separate me from myself. So the relationship I have with my goals, my sacrifice, that's the integrity. I looked up the definition of integrity. It's wholeness.
My favorite
So
word.
I need to, yeah, and anyway, that was like I got a lot out of this conversation. It was great.
I
So
have one word in response,
integrity.
Jay. One word in response. 4-letter word again. Amen.
If you guys are listening to this podcast, gals, everybody, I challenge you to follow our guests. This episode, this day is this day is dedicated to those that we've lost. It's not, it's so if everyone wants to, no pressure, but anybody that you want to share, feel free to. But I'm gonna this day is dedicated to those we lost. So In memory of, I'll speak for myself, John Schwartz, September 19th of 2024. We lost him, but the eternal gained him. And if anybody wants to share, I know, we were praying, well, maybe we weren't praying out loud, but praying for Donna earlier that Matt do. But if anybody else here on this call wants to dedicate this episode to somebody that they miss, feel free.
My grandmother, man, I wouldn't be here hanging with you guys if she didn't believe in me, when not many people did.
Awesome.
And if you, so yeah, oh, Matt, go ahead.
Yep. My friend Donna, who lost about a month ago, well, less than a month ago, unfortunately. She suffered, had a hard life, and she had unfortunately had 4 kids, and they all miss her greatly.
If you're listening to this episode, share this with a friend who could use some perspective. Please.
Okay, I was gonna mention somebody.
Oh, please. Oh, please.
My competition. That guys, they tried
Nice.
hard. They tried so hard.
Rest in peace.
I think they gave it all.
If you're listening to this podcast still, thanks so much. Keep following our journeys and live vicariously through us as we accumulate influence and power. And keep praying for us. Now, if I go any longer, it's gonna turn into one big projection. Please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Gentlemen.